Welcome. Bonjour et bonsoir.
Are you, I was going to say, are you,
¿Cómo estás?
what is that? Very nice.
Very, very nice.
Yeah, welcome back to Beyond the Metcon. Today's subject we're going to be talking about is pulling your microphone closer to your face. No, fix the little elbow.
Today's subject is going to be how do you speak in a microphone?
The microphone like this.
Apparently, we don't sound that good because Madison has to do a shit ton of editing.
I do, actually. Because it's like, and today we're going to be talking about... It's like, why are you 19 feet from your mic? No, today's actual subject we're going to be talking about is... logging your workouts in SugarWOD or just keeping track of some kind of your progress. Progress. How you say it in French? Progress.
Yep.
It's progress. You don't really say
Le progress.
No way.
No.
Is that like where to speak Spanish you
It's,
just put progressa?
Progrès.
Oh,
Progrès.
see, you don't pronounce any of the letters.
But there is an S at the end. Just don't say it.
I like it. You just don't. Yeah. Cool. Makes sense. Okay. So, do you guys log any of your info?
I do. I try to log in every day, even if I just go sauna.
Yeah, you like
Just
to
so I
make
get
up your
that
own stuff.
7-7.
Yeah, Carlos would just make up stuff. I walked up and down my stairs 3 times to go to the kitchen. Nailed it. Got
Drank
my
my
workout
water.
done. Got my workout in so I can have... No, on if you guys don't know, on SugarWOD, if you click on the me, it'll show like how many days a week you log. And for some reason, Carlos is obsessed with it having 7s across there to make it look like he works out every day, even though it would be like, yeah, I did 4 curls. I played on my phone for 30 minutes, but I was at the gym.
It's been pretty active, but I log it. The other thing is just as a coach going in there and giving everyone a fist pump and getting some comments for some people that you may see that hits a PR or does something
Fist
really
bump
good.
or middle finger.
Mine's usually this.
Dude, how funny would it be if they had a fist bump or a middle finger for someone beating you?
Dude,
It's
I
like, you
think
piece
that
of shit.
I think that would make tons of money.
Shit.
Dude, that'd be really funny. There you go. They make you a t-shirt. I don't know. Carlos
Don't
is
they
all about
already
his
have it?
t-shirts.
No.
Oh, I wasn't even talking about that. It's like flipping people off. But yeah, it works too. Yeah, bruh. No, so logging your scores. Wow. I always ask people to log their stuff is at least log their benchmarks or weightlifting, just so that they have.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, pal. I read the manual. Just so they have a track record of that, because logging your weightlifting or logging the benchmark workouts like the girl workouts will help you see progress. I had a couple new clients the other day, and we always start new clients off with body scans, which if you've never done a body scan and you want to, let me know and we'll do that. But we always start the new members off with body scans because in a month or whatever, you can at least have an idea of your progress. And they were all like, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. I don't want to see it. And it's like, well, in a month, you're going to wish you had, because then you'll actually see if you made progress or not. Same thing applies to logging workouts.
Yeah, and I think wanting to do that, some people don't want to log it or don't want to see progress. It's also a way for us to look at stuff where we can challenge our members and kind of see like, hey, you're still doing 100 pounds on your back squat. We know you can do a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me personally as a programmer, every day I get up, first thing I do is I'll look at the SugarWOD and I'll look at everybody's comments. I always read through everybody's comments to see like what's going on. Sometimes I'll program certain skill work and I'll be like, pick A, B, C, or D and put what you pick in the comments. And then I'll go through and read. That way I have a general idea of what the gym needs as a whole. And then obviously I can still program up or down from there. If you don't ever log anything, I as a programmer having a clue what's going on as a gym. So that's on my side of things for programming. I always log my stuff just because to me it's a general habit, and I want everybody in the gym to know that I don't just make people do stuff that I'm not willing to do.
And it's nice to see where we all competitive wise and moving up the ladder, down the ladder, even seeing that, hey, some days you're scaling a workout, so people realize that we do scale workouts.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also too is like I don't like. I'm fairly decent for our gym, and I don't win workouts, especially anymore. Adrian beats me in everything.
I think he cheats.
Not true.
He does.
I cheat.
Steroids.
You're not cheating. You're not trying.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
But like, there's another thing too. Is some people don't want to they don't want to put their stuff out there. They're embarrassed for whatever reason, and they're just too good for the gym to have their numbers crush us. So it keeps our egos in check.
Yeah.
So you can make it private, and you could keep your stuff tracking so that we can still see on our end your comments, what you're doing. Yeah, you don't have to make it public.
What I was going to say was on your little remark there, someone came up to me and they were like, "Hey, I always try to say hi to Adrian, but he always is like, hey." And they're like, "I didn't realize that."
Stay away from me. For those of you that don't watch the videos, that was Adrian giving a hard middle finger.
Yeah, for just the audio listeners.
Not true. I just have an issue with my right hand.
It just says "fuck you" to everybody. No, they were like, "I didn't realize Adrian had such a dry sense of humor," and I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, and he's sarcastic a lot, but he's pretty funny. I didn't realize that." I was like, "Yeah." They're like,
in all honesty, I'm very funny. In all humbleness,
he is his biggest fan.
He is. You are quiet, but then when you hang out with you get a good amount of food in him, and then he doesn't shut up.
He has a picture of himself laughing on the wall, and he stares at it every day like, "Damn, you are funny."
I like to tell myself I am actually my biggest fan. I make myself laugh a lot. That's for sure.
That's true.
You've seen
No,
me.
no, you'll just be sitting there and just start laughing. I'm like, "What?" And you're like, "Nothing." I'm like, "No, you have to tell me now." But
yeah, guys, don't be scared. I don't bite. I may, but I try to feed myself
He'll
enough.
just
So
hit you with the double bird first to flip you off.
just come say hi.
Hey, he's harmless.
Yeah,
He's a good dude.
But no, seriously, no. Logging your scores and your weights and those kinds of things just help you see that. But like Carlos said, if you're embarrassed or if you just don't want other people to see your scores or whatever, then there is an option where you can set it to private to where no one can see it.
Yeah.
And like I can on the back end of all of us coaches that can log in on our views, we can see that it's what you're actually doing. And not every day needs to be a PR. So whenever I'm right programming, like I was having this conversation with Carlos yesterday, we're talking about, is it training or is it testing? And that's something I ask myself every workout that I write. Is this a training or is this a testing? And what I mean by that is, like, if I write something like Thursday's workout we're going to be doing is 1,000 meter row, 30 toes to bar, 30 burpees, 3 minutes rest, 30 burpees, 30 toes to bar, 1,000 meter row. So that's I'm kind of looking at that as a little bit of both of training and testing, because I'm really curious to see how people do on their toes to bar post 1,000 meter row. So I'm going to be reading through people's comments to see how they may have broken it up. Like maybe on Monday's workout, it started with 20 pull-ups. A lot of people, like I told all the classes I coached, I was like, a lot of you haven't done a large set of pull-ups in a long time, so maybe this can be like a chance for you to set a new pull-up PR or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I also said, now, if you know that you're going to burn out in pull-ups in the later rounds, don't do that. Make it small sets. So that was partially a test, but partially training, mainly training. And last thing on that workout, to be honest, I was questioning whether I thought it was a training or a testing until we did it. And I was like, oh no, this is a training for the ski yard, because that was the hardest part.
Yeah, you got to put a lot of effort in that. And the 2 minutes rest gave you enough time to recoup and to do.
For those that are just listening or watching that don't come to the gym, the workout was 20 pull-ups, 25 push-ups, 30 air squats, 500 meter ski, 2 minutes rest, 3 rounds. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and our goal was for you to try to repeat that time frame. Or like he was saying, as a testing phase in the training was, if you can only do 5 pull-ups, was trying to keep that consistent with 5 pull-ups each time, getting through that, then the push-ups, breaking it up or going unbroken. At some point, something was going to break down. The air squats were pretty straightforward, where you're going straight through all 30 air squats, and then the real test was you're grinding through that 500 meter row.
Yeah, or ski. It felt like a mental test for sure.
Yeah.
Adrian?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So
What was your pace on the ski erg, by the way? Because I know you had it.
Oh, I can tell you. I was watching.
What was it?
I'm just kidding. Go.
I don't know.
Really? Your first ski was 151. I think you were like a 152, 153 for the second one. Third one, I was drooling and trying not to black out. So I don't know what you were doing on that.
Probably a little slower.
Yeah.
But I think I remained pretty consistent. I think, I can't remember my times, but I remember being fairly consistent.
But I think did you go unbroken on the push-ups too, or no?
Not on the last set, no.
So, we all strategize. Like, push-ups usually become a lot of people's weakness.
Yeah.
Usually it's my jam, and even in rounds 2 and 3, I had to break it up.
Right.
Like, I was just getting super tight, fatigued.
And I broke it up from round 1.
Which allowed you to keep going fast.
I don't have a high endurance with push-ups. Like, I tend to, when I burn out hard, and it's, like, really hard to finish the rep. But no, so logging that kind of a workout, I will go back in later and read, and I'll kind of see what people do pull-ups wise, what people did push-ups wise, like how did you scale X, and then that'll let me know like what a majority of the gym is doing. And I hope other gyms are kind of keeping an eye on stuff like that, just because that's how you help your gym progress as a whole, as opposed to like maybe your top people are progressing or only the bottom people are progressing and everybody else is staying stagnant, because the goal is for everybody to move up.
Yeah, like we don't just want this to be a check mark on your tasks for the day, right?
Yeah.
Like just showing up, like, it could be for mental stress and stuff we talked about earlier last week in one of our podcasts. But for us, we want something attainable. We want to see progress. So that's where we have times, we have weights. You also have aesthetics and stuff like that, but we're going to be more data driven, and that's where you as our members can help by continually putting in your information. I think, what do we have? Like usually like a third of our population.
Yeah, of the actual members.
Like if we can get another third, that would be awesome to have more data to help Madison with programming, or just us as coaches do a better job of pushing that.
Just a third of members log in?
I'd say we have anywhere, like on a good day, it's like 65 to 75 people log.
Yeah, roughly.
And per day, I was trying to think about this the other day, per day we have roughly 150 to 180 members come every day. And I would say, and it varies, obviously, like some people are on 3 days a week, some people are on unlimited. So you're going to have your variation of certain things. But only about a third of the people use it, and then I pay for it.
Interesting.
Per month.
We don't try to force it, because I know like some people don't want to log things and they feel like it's another thing. Like it's already hard enough to sign in for class, but to log your workout.
Carlos hates that. No,
but they got better.
Yeah.
I mean,
I get it.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it should be seen as like an additional, I don't know, task or chore, but. I don't know, for a while I haven't been logging in anything because I guess I didn't really care too much. But that being said, I do think it's a good thing. Number one, like you guys mentioned earlier, for like coaching purposes, to get kind of like an additional, because as a coach, like you get to interact with the few classes that you're going to coach, but not with the rest, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a means to getting some feedback, right, in the comments, in the notes from athletes that you didn't get to interact with,
right?
And also for each athlete, not necessarily just to see that, hey, I was built to come 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 times this week, but also when there's a movement that comes back on a regular basis, or that you haven't done in a while, and you're supposed to do like the back squats today, for example. We've been doing back squats on a regular basis lately, but let's say I don't know, had we stopped for like a month, and you're supposed to go off of your 75% or whatever. What if you don't remember what your 1 rep max is?
You're always just going to go back to like that last time or guess, or just start from scratch again. And again, that's not allowing you to make progress. Yeah. And that's what our goal is as coaches in this facility.
And so in that situation, SugarWOD will be there to let you know, hey, last time you did so many reps, so many sets of so many reps at that weight. So if this time you have like, less reps each set, you should be able to know that in theory you should be trying to go a little heavier,
Yeah, because that's what today's is we did 5 sets of 4. That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And we did that 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago.
I think October 5th or something like that.
Yeah, so 3 weeks ago we did that, and today I put in there to do it again and to go up slightly heavier than you did last week.
Yeah, I mean, like a perfect example is me doing the snatch last week, and I didn't follow the percentage, and I was getting frustrated. And you can point it out, like, is that near your 180%?
Yeah, because so we did something like doubles or triples or something like 3 touch and go, and I put in there you can build to something heavy, which I'll explain. I want to explain the difference between a 1 rep max and a heavy single in a minute. But I was like, you can build to something heavy, or you can stay at around a percentage to work on technique.
I think it was like 60, and I was at like almost 80.
Yeah, you're at like 80-85% of your 1 rep max, and you're trying to hit it for a triple at the end of an EMOM, and it was like, and you were getting super frustrated, and it was just, and it's understandable. I mean, we've all been there, but I was just like,
why is this so heavy?
I haven't been there.
No, never.
Just Carlos.
Every time Adrian's there, he goes, it's just being a little bitch. I'll be right back. I'm going to show this bar to this boss every time. And then you end up doing. So, yeah, it's just like a good reminder for yourself to know, oh, okay, yeah, I am at a higher percentage than what was programmed, because there is a reason that I write those things. So, like, let's say it's Wednesday today, and like this last week we've done, or this last couple of days, we've done some pretty hard workouts. So, if you come in today and you're trying to do the 5 sets of 4 at the heavier weight and you can't, it's like, oh, okay, that's a good reminder that I've had a hard week, but also, okay, maybe I can try to match what I did 3 weeks ago, and that way you know. But if you didn't, you should be like, oh, well, Joe Blow over here is doing, 300 pounds more than me. Why am I so weak? And it's
Piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Piece of shit.
He's on steroids. But you'll know, like, based off of yourself rather than comparing yourself to other people.
Yeah, because it goes back to what we talked about earlier last week, was how you feel. Like, yeah, there's going to be days you're down, but don't always use it as an excuse. So, like, if you don't feel great, that doesn't mean just go super light. Like, you can go 55, 60%.
Yeah.
See how it feels. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you can start using data versus just,
I feel. Because that kind of touches on, like, the watch thing we were talking about, like how sometimes people lean into data a little too hard, but also if you don't know, you don't know. You can't really go by feel all the time.
Yeah. No,
It's when it comes down to that, I feel. Maybe.
Yeah.
What were we going to say, Adrian?
Well, I say yes. I mean, obviously, if you feel like crap,
Like you do today.
You're not a failure if you can't do your 4 sets heavier, than you did it last time. But that's also not the purpose of that thing. It's just the purpose of Sugar WOD is it's a guideline, right? It's just reminding you what you did last time. Ideally, the goal is to try and do a little heavier, but may not happen.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were able to go heavier every single time, everybody would be squatting at least 1,000 pounds, if not more.
Yeah, because you just linear progression just lasts until you die, right? Yep,
To the top.
to the moon. I had a thought, and then I lost it, and then
it'll
I
come
was
back.
thinking about your bike. I was like, man, this is a really good backdrop. This Adrian's sweet, sweet mountain
I think
bike.
you should just sit on it the whole time.
Something I was gonna say. Go ahead, Carlos.
It just, logging your stuff becomes more habitual, which I think is beneficial to some people. Just like the watches, for some people, they love watching their steps. It's not to become dependent on it. Like, I don't just come to the gym to get that 7th day on my bookmarker.
Yeah,
like,
you do.
I really
Or
don't.
do you?
It's like a 70-30.
No, I mean, like,
kidding.
I log it in there just to make a note that's like, okay, you started, because on the Sugar WOD, Sunday is the beginning of the week. So for me, it sets my week up right. Like, it's nothing high stress on a Sunday, so it leads into Monday and the rest of the week. So
You already got a training session in the books.
yeah, it just makes me
Sunday,
feel good.
That way Monday he can be like, yeah, I worked out yesterday.
walk all the
Just
way
kidding.
from my house to my car.
6 times.
Took me-
I open the door, close the door, open the door,
I
close the
got
door.
200 steps.
Got my heart rate up to 101.
That's interesting, the heart rate thing that we were watching, that used the video you sent me. That was
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that next time.
So what I was thinking was, I remember reading someone's comment one time that were like, I was almost able to put unbroken and feel like a big dog. Like the other people. And me and Britt were talking about that. We're like, oh man, like I hope that whenever I put in there unbroken on the pull-ups, whatever, like whenever I put that in there, it's not a humble brag and it's not a brag. Like, look what I did. Like, wow. Look at me.
No, because there's
Wow.
there's times where
But-
some people might move faster breaking it up than we would do it unbroken.
No, you're
I
right.
mean,
You're
That
right.
is true.
You're right. So what I was trying to say was with that is like the comment section isn't a place to brag unless you're, I don't know.
You're a bragger.
Unless you're a bragger. No, but what I was going to say was like, it's whenever I put in my comments, I put in there, because I've had a few people tell me, oh yeah, I read your comments, and then I try to base my strategy off of whatever you put. And it's not that I'm the fucking best strategist in the world, because I get beat all the damn time, but I know what works for me, and I know what I can do. So I put that in there, and I hope that it's not taken in any other kind of way other than like, oh, okay, so because like you said, like I've done workouts where I'm like, damn, I went unbroken and this person broke it every fucking 3 reps, and it's like I did all 30.
Yeah.
And it's like they still beat me, and it's like, okay, well, because they were able to keep their heart rate down by doing these broken sets, that way they could go harder in other stuff where maybe I spiked my heart rate by going unbroken. You know what I mean?
And I think we also have to reiterate again, like I did last week, is we put in a lot of hours of training, a lot of years.
I thought you meant just last week. I was like, no.
No.
I didn't,
but like,
I got you.
Those,
Just over the
those are
10
the
years.
reasons why you're able to do these workouts in that capacity and do them. Like,
Yeah.
we've been doing almost as long as some of the games athletes. There's no way I'm competing with some of those times or some of the things that
No.
I've done. And I've been doing a long time, and I don't sit there going, man, I wish I could do Grace at 225 like Froning does in 2 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
you have to come to a realization that we're good role models, if you're say, but like to try to keep up and say like, oh, I'm not as fit and I'm not doing what you're doing as you would if you had it as a profession and you put in the amount of hours we did. There's a difference there. So use it as a guideline, just like everything we put in the coaches notes that you do. They're beneficial to all of you when you come in here. They're not just there for fluff. Like Matt doesn't just sit there just to go through and tell him what's going through in his mind when he does the programming. Like we've talked about before, is sometimes you.
What are you giggling about, little girl?
No, medicine goes through is like, you, fuck you, you're slow, you, alright, you're nice,
You're cool.
and you, fuck
Piece of
you.
shit.
we need the middle finger. We need to call Sugar Rod and be like, you need to insert a middle finger for our gym.
Yeah. As a programmer and a coach, I need to be able to click that button. Fuck you. No.
But yeah, like there's a reason why he does all that for you guys.
See,
and then
case
he
in
does.
point, he makes himself laugh. But yeah, whenever I write in all my coach's notes about the workout, so you guys can see whatever I'm thinking for the workout, and just giving different options about how to approach a workout or whatever, it's just to help you maximize what you can get out every workout. So if you just kind of go balls to the wall every workout, you may miss the mark. Or if you pace it or break it up too much, again, you may miss the mark. So it's just trying to figure out what works for you to maximize to be able to get the best results. And whenever we say best results, I mean that in all capacities, in like you're trying to progress how much weight you moved or how fast you went on a workout, because then now you can lower your body fat, you increase your bone density, your LDLs go down a little bit, your HDLs go up. You know, it's just all the markers, the health markers, all the things that kind of what we look at as a whole, as a gym or as a coach, or for me and Britt as owners. That's what we want for you. The goal isn't to get you on top of the leaderboard per se.
That's what just makes it fun sometimes. Like for those of us that are competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not super competitive,
Set yourself
it's
up
all right.
private. Yeah.
You can set yourself up private, or if you like just seeing where you stack up again.
Yeah.
Dude, it's cool to see people move up.
Yeah.
And like one of the guys, I think he was telling me, he's like, dude, I love seeing where I am on the scale.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, can you guys tell us like what scale, what's RX? Like, why should you be in the scale versus RX? So maybe we could talk about that.
Was
later.
that say it again? They asked.
Like, so like if the workout calls for a 135 clean, strict handstand push-ups, and let's say a 500 meter row, and I can do the 135,
But
but I have to kip the handstand push-ups.
Right.
Is that RX'd?
Oh, no, not at all.
But
So-
someone will put an RX'd in the system.
Oh,
so it's
gotcha,
like
gotcha. Okay,
making sure that we
gotcha.
understand when
Yep.
we're scaling, when we're RXing workouts.
So for those listening or watching, whatever, so what in my mind, if you have to change anything at all, I consider it scaled. So let's say that we're doing the workout 135 clean, strict handstands and row. Let's say you go strict deficit, or let's say you do 185 instead of 135 as a guy. That's scaled because you changed something. Like even though you scaled it up to make it harder, you still scaled it. So if you change anything that is as written, that's what RX is, as prescribed, then it's considered scaled. If you are doing wall balls and you're using a slightly lighter load of a wall ball, that's scaled. If you're going to use a heavier ball, I consider that scaled. Sometimes I'll put in there like froggy, and you can still click RX because that's in a prescription that I gave.
and you moved it up.
Yeah, I would say even that would be considered scaling up just to make it harder.
And like, here's the other thing for all of you understanding scaling. Scaling isn't like a demotion or something bad.
No, it's just doing whatever you can in the workout.
Doing what you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
So like wanting to do RX and be like, oh, I'm going to do scaled again.
Yeah.
Like scaled is where you're at. Like for some people that may not be able to get depth on a squat.
Yeah, like my knees are busted, so I'm gonna take out lunges for a while. So anytime they're in there, I'm gonna do something else.
I mean, that's a
'cause I
scaled
can't do
workout,
it.
right?
Yeah, and it's scaled, and I'm okay with that because I've tore a lat one time when I didn't warm up my pull ups. I've tore a hamstring when I was snowboarding once. Couldn't do anything for a long time. I mean, I still worked out. Like I did a 1-legged 2K row once. That was dumb.
Yeah. So like,
But I've changed it, and I was still that's what I was capable of doing at that moment.
yeah. And then that's the thing is having a positive connotation to scaling is it's not a bad thing. It's not that you're not fit, you're not unfit, you're not there where RX is.
No, it's just modifying the movements so you can still get a good workout.
Yeah.
And and we keep talking about, and you always bring it up, is a good workout. Like I say fun, he's a good workout. Madison likes performance. Like you want to have a good,
I guess I do.
I just couldn't think of anything at the time, so it just
like
came
that.
out.
Just a yes.
He just likes competitors and only competitive people.
Formula 1.
I actually had a dream about us doing another podcast, and it was HFW, health, fitness, and wealth. I had the health part, you were the fitness expert, and you were the financial expert. And we had 10 minutes each.
Dang, somebody's gonna steal that.
Oh,
Our
we can-
34 listeners.
71 I thought.
Oh man,
Better trademark it.
I watched it 12 times. Yeah, you better trademark that.
I'll get
No,
a
I'm just
t-shirt, circle.
I feel like I've heard of that before. Anyway, but yeah, it's just modifying it to where you're able to do it. That's why I've been trying to do the coach's notes lately. That way people can understand what I'm getting at. I know one of our clients, he'll do, let's say I write in there 20 handstand push-ups. He'll do 10 handstand push-ups and then 10 regular push-ups because that's what he's capable of. And like I always tell people, like, well, so let's say on that, the workout you gave the example with the clean handstands row, the workout strict handstand push-ups. If someone's like, hey, I can do kipping, but I can't do strict. Cool, do kipping. I would rather you try to mimic the full movement as much as possible as opposed to just completely scaling it. So just because you can't do strict, let's make it deficit kipping. That way you're still getting some strength that's outside of your normal comfort zone, because then you're at least getting closer rather than just doing push-ups or rather than just grabbing a pair of dumbbells and doing presses or something like that.
Yeah, and then that also, like, when you put your score in, if you're doing that and you put what you scaled it to, the next time we do my workout, instead of trying to base it off memory, you can actually go back to that workout or some form of that workout and look at, last time I did handstand push-ups, I did kipping with 2 ab mats.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just do 1 ab mat. So there's those benefits.
The comment section is when you put in your stuff. The comment section is for that. It's for like a reminder. It's to keep yourself trying to think how to word it correctly, to make a history of your movement. So if it is like, let's say, like I've had some people like, I ran a marathon on Saturday and it's Monday and we're doing running, and they change it to whatever. They're like, in their comments, let's say we're doing Helen on Monday, that's kettlebell swings, pull-ups, and running. If they're like, I ran a marathon or half or a 5K or something, they can put that in their comments, like ran a marathon. And then whenever we repeat the workout in 6 months or whatever, and they're like, holy crap, what happened on that day or whatever, they can be like, oh yeah, it's because I ran a marathon whatever before, because it's like, what did you do 2 weeks ago? No idea,
I have no
right?
clue.
Right. Most of us cannot remember those specific.
Remember when you used to
details.
have a notebook and you used to write out your programming in the notebook and all your scores and then try to recognize what the hell that
Some people
number
still do
was?
that. Some people still do that, which is nuts. But yeah, go ahead.
It's good.
It's good.
Keep notes.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But that's
It's like
kind
journaling.
of what the note section is for, and then kind of what I said earlier. It's so that I can see what you're doing. So if you do scale the workout, if it's like squat snatches, ring muscle ups, and handstand walk, which is all high skill, that lets me know like how did you scale it, how are things done, and then let's say that I write that workout, and then I go at the end of the day and I look at how many people RX'd it. Three out of say 60 people. I'm like, okay, well, I need to breathe through that and see why only 3. If let's say 15 people RX'd it, then I'm okay with that, because that lets me know that at least the top 10% of the clients were able to RX that. Then I know that that's an okay set of movements to prescribe. Now, if like I said, one person RX'd it, it's okay sometimes for me to program things from like I remember one time I had a client was like, I love it whenever you write stuff that forces everyone to scale, because that kind of checks everyone's ego. And I'm like, yeah, to a certain point, that's okay. But if I'm doing that every day, to where it's like I'm writing workouts to say we're doing squat cleans at 275, we're doing strict deficit handstand push-ups at a 12-inch deficit, and we're doing ring, I don't know, giants where you're swinging, or it's like, okay, no one in the gym's doing that. And let's say I'm writing workouts like that all the time, or like here's a running workout with burpees and stuff like that, but the time cap is super steep and no one's completing it. Then now I'm just demoralizing everybody. You got to throw people wins as a programmer.
Yeah, and they have that hashtag fuck Madison.
FUM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the programming here is very well done.
Well, thank you. I think it could be better, but
Of course, I mean, there's always room for improvement.
Right.
I use a litmus test of when people go to visit other gyms and they're like, "Hey, I always scale workouts at our gym and I RX'd the entire week at so and so."
Yeah.
I mean, that's
always cool to hear.
That's we're setting the bar high and we're not setting it low.
There it is. I agree. I agree. That's definitely whenever people come back and tell me that, they're like, "Oh, I went to my old gym and normally I was at the bottom of the leaderboard, or I always had to scale everything, and now I've RX'd everything and I'm doing pretty well." Yeah. That makes me feel pretty good, because it lets me know that I'm at least helping people become better and I'm not just destroying people. Yeah. So something we kind of touched on earlier that I want to kind of throw a little definition into, that I explain this every single time that we do this in class, but I think it's good for other people to hear, is what's the difference between, and this will kind of get into a subject. Me and Carlos were having a pretty good chat yesterday about a subject, and I want to kind of touch on that a little bit more with you guys, just so you can be a fly on the wall with it, just what our thoughts are. But the difference between a 1 rep max and a heavy single. So this was my old boss back in Oklahoma, how he kind of explained it to me was like, so some days in Olympic weightlifting, you'll come in and build to a heavy single, and then you'll do percentage based off that. So what the heavy single is what's heavy for the day. Another way he explained it was a technical max. So let's say we're doing a 1 rep max or a heavy single back squat. The difference would be the heavy single back squat is everything is moving and grooving. Maybe on the way up, you slowed way down, like you really hit that grind spot, but everything technical wise is still there. Knees might have caved a hair. Maybe, you kind of dip forward just a little bit, and as you stand up, you rack it, you call it a day. A 1 rep max is you're going to blow everything out, like meaning that you're trying your hardest. Maybe it takes you 25 seconds to stand up because you're grinding through that so hard. That is a 1 rep max. That's a test. So that's why we're at the end of something, or we're trying to start something. We're trying to see where you're at. We're trying to whatever. That's a 1 rep max. The conversation we were having yesterday was talking about complexes, but we're talking about 1 rep maxes. Should people do it? Should people not? And the kind of conversation we're having was, unless you're a competitor, should you do a 1 rep max or not?
Yeah, that was my take on it. Right. My perception was, unless you're competing, I'd rather see someone squat or do something technical with 2 or 3 reps. That was just my experience.
Do you know in the CrossFit Kids training, they say, and I've also heard this through other trainers and coaches over the years that they don't allow kids that are, I think, under 16 to do 1 rep maxes. They only let them do 3s and 5s because of that specific reason, because things will start to break down quicker the more reps you do, and you can catch it early. So if you're doing 3s and 5s, by the time you get to 3 or 5, the maybe partial of the technique breaks down and you can call it, because the point with a kid, we should be with anybody, but the point with a kid would be to really drill in technique. That way, as they go through hormones and puberty and all that thing, and then after that's all done, they can now really maximize their lifting. But do you feel like that should be, do you feel, and then Adrian, you can chime in on this one as well, do you feel that for classes, should we do 1 rep maxes? Should we do stuff like that?
I think based on how we bring our clients in through introduction, we do a very good job assessing our members. I'm comfortable with people doing 1 reps.
So like
in a class.
So how you just said, unless you're a competitor, should people be doing 1 rep maxes?
I'm not programming, and like for me,
like if you were programming, would you ever find a 1 rep max clean?
I probably wouldn't, but that's where
that's why I'm just asking.
But that's where like I'm kind of pigeonholed, and I think that would be a disservice not to just do it because you're not competing, right? So I'm like 50-50 on both sides. Just like you said, it'd be kind of ridiculous on the complex we were talking yesterday. For my point was a complex used for technical or skill.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, why would you hold someone back from going a little heavier? That's true.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a place and times, and I think that comes down to programming.
Yeah, that wasn't exactly what I was trying to get at, but I'll elaborate a little bit more. Adrian, what do you?
I don't see anything wrong with programming a 1 rep max because I think it's a good benchmark. Now I think what matters, like what's more important, is the frequency, right? Obviously, if you're going to do 1 rep max every month, then that's probably not needed.
Yeah.
And also, like, I think to be totally honest, even if you were to program a 1 rep max, some people are going to make it a 1 rep max, and some people are just going to make it a heavy single, which is totally fine. So most likely people who compete are going to try to make it a 1 rep max, and people who don't really care about competing will just make it a heavy single, because they won't try to like kill themselves to get on an extra like 5 pounds or something like that. So I don't see anything wrong with programming a 1 rep max. I think it can be used as a good benchmark, especially if you use percentages for sets after that.
Yeah, I agree. So I had a few thoughts on different stuff. So we'll touch on all of it. One of those thoughts was which I want to touch on in a minute. Some programmers will never program percentage work. Some programmers will, like myself. I like percentage work. I feel like it keeps me accountable.
It also gives a generalization for our clients,
yes.
right? Like, because if you always get one on feel.
Yeah, because I've done a few programs where it's always build to a heavy, build over the X percents, build to, and for me, my strength numbers, every time I've ever done that on any program, I've done it like 3 or 4 different times through programs that I've followed for like a year at a time. My strength numbers just keep declining. And it's because sometimes for me, mentally, to step under a bar and go build to a heavy, I'm mentally going to go, you don't have this, you don't have this, you don't have this, fail, told you. And then I'll do that every time.
I knew I was right.
I knew I was right. I tried to tell myself and I wouldn't listen. But that's just how it works for me. But if I'm like try to hit around 80% today, cool, I can try to do that. And if I hit like say 75, 80, 78%, and I'm supposed to hit 80, then in my mind I'm okay with it. But if I'm like find a 1 rep max, find a heavy single, and I'm not within 50 pounds, I'm like, oh man, that sucked. If I'm like hitting 70% or 80% of that 1 rep, it's like, okay, it's a little demoralizing.
Yeah. I think the programs that require you to, or that make you build to, something, whatever, like heavy for the day or whatever, instead of percentages, really require your require you to know yourself a lot more,
I agree.
and that's something that takes a long time.
And if you have like a person that's only been doing it for like a year or
Yeah.
less, they don't have that.
Well, they make huge gains really quick, man. Like that.
And
that
to be
newbie phase.
honest, that's why people write that in programs, is so that they are getting that win. Because, and this is a little on the back end of for you guys, if I throw you a heavy single or a 1 rep max or something like that every month or something like that, there's something called the conjugate style method, which you find a new PR of a movement every week. But the difference is that maybe you did it with 3 bands on a bench press last week. This week, let's do it with 4. Let's do it with 2. Let's do it with chains. Let's do it to blocks. Let's do it 4 reps. Let's do it with 2 reps. They change it. They change it so it's oh, you haven't tested this in a year. That's why you PR'd, or you've never done this before. You set a new PR. So the point of that would be to throw people like bones to make them excited. Oh man, this is really working. I'm getting so much stronger. I've lifted more weight for the last 6 months. Every week I've lifted more weight than I ever have. Cool. I love this. I want to keep doing it. But a lot of people do that because they're trying to keep that member in the gym, but to me, you're setting that member up for failure in the long run.
Oh yeah, I love how we've established. People come up to me in class, and when we do the heavy single or Bill do a heavy 3, they walk up and they're like, "Hey, Carlos, what percentage should I be going?" I'm like, "I'm so proud of you."
Yeah.
Like they're already thinking like, okay, so what's my game plan? Instead of just loading weight, like I'm just gonna put 5. I'm gonna start with 95. It's like, what's my goal here to get percentage wise? I go, how do you feel? Feel great. Okay, here's what we're looking at. We're in between 70 and 75%.
Yeah, and I think that kind of sets people up for more realistic expectations rather than just like, because I had like PRs come far and few between now that just because of how long I've been doing it, and then other, like I eat like shit sometimes, or I don't sleep as well, all the other things we've talked about tends to happen. It keeps me from hitting PRs or doing better. So if I had that constant dopamine just drip for the first year, and I'm just like, this is the best thing ever, and then I'd stop cold turkey, why do I want to keep doing this? This sucks. I'm not seeing any progress. It's like, no, you're doing this to maintain health or to maintain whatever you've built, and the goal is to keep progressing, but try not to go backwards.
Yeah.
If I were to just quit, then I'm going to go backwards. But the subject that we were talking about yesterday was talking about basically we did it was 1 hang power clean plus a power clean touch and go every 90 seconds build. So I asked myself before I programmed that, is this a test or is this a training? So in my coach's notes, I put in there to work on dropping, catching your feet in a good squat position, landing in a quarter squat position for the power, rather than doing what I normally do, which is, Adrian laughed at me yesterday because my feet went all crazy. I caught with 1 foot behind, and I was starfished, and I had to walk it back in. The next set, I fixed it. I went up a little bit, but I was consciously thinking, okay, you just did that really bad. Fix this. Where I ended, I was nowhere near my 1 rep max, so I wasn't trying to max out on that lift, so I knew that I wasn't anywhere near it, but I was consciously thinking about that. So whenever we're doing lifts, is this training or is this testing? So if it's testing, what we were talking about was, like you said, on complexes, we should never find a 1 rep max of a complex, because you were thinking in training.
Yeah.
So let's say that we find a 3 rep max hang power clean. Now we're trying to build, we're trying to figure out how much weight we can do with the least amount of momentum, meaning going from the hang instead of from the floor. You don't have very much momentum. So we're trying to see how much we can. And then also the stamina side of it, being able to hang on to it for 3 reps. Then we go through a training period to where we're kind of building on the hang cleans. We're, doing different stuff. And then we find a new 3 rep max. The thought process behind that is, now we've seen if we've progressed in that. That's why I'm like, don't pigeonhole it as like you should only use this for training.
Yeah.
Now, if you're an Olympic weightlifter, sure, that's what the whole point of the hang is, so that you take out from the bottom, so you can really focus on the end of the second pull and then the third pull. So that's the whole point of doing from the hang or doing a high hang. It's to drill technique.
Yeah.
But in CrossFit, we typically test everything. There's not one thing that we just like, nope, don't do that, because that's not what Olympic weightlifters do.
So do we think, like, when we do those complex, and like when you guys read the notes from Madison, and it's saying we're focusing on footwork, we're focusing on this, and you already have bad tendencies, we would like you to go on the lighter side, but we're not going to.
I want
gonna,
you to,
but we're not going
but-
to pigeonhole you, because if you're hitting it right, you can still go up in weight.
Yes.
Training is like practicing,
Yeah.
right? Like we can say training and practicing. We're practicing the movement to be as efficient as possible, and being efficient allows us to move more weight.
Agreed.
So we agree.
I could tell
yes,
you're tired.
Me?
Yeah, you hadn't really said much.
I'm just listening.
Oh, okay. You just live listening in on the podcast?
He's like, I
I'm
listened to this
kidding.
entire conversation yesterday when you guys made us wait 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
He's so mad.
Yeah, I know. He's like, we got
He's
to
like-
get going,
he's
but
like,
it was
you-
because Presley had to go. But yeah, I think there's a time and place, and when you guys are looking at workouts or weightlifting or anything like that, that's something for you to think about. That I think about is this testing or is this training? If I'm putting in there, we're doing like 5 reps, and I put in my comments, focus on your feet position, and you land in a super wide split, Patrick Starr, and you stand up in a clean. It's like, okay, don't add 10 pounds and do it again. Like, you don't necessarily need to drop back, but you need to focus on what we're focusing on.
I like his cue he was giving. He's like, you got to go and squat for it.
Bend your knees.
Yeah, bend your knees, and I hate doing that. I don't know why. Like it just doesn't make sense.
Because your legs are a little tired.
I think they're just little. Don't even comment on that.
Nope. No, I mean, I think it's that default position where you're trying to like do as little effort as possible during the lift because your legs are tired or because of whatever reason, but it's just not a good habit. It makes the movement inefficient.
Yeah. And then it makes it inefficient and then also sets you up for failure for the long run.
Yep.
Yeah, because that squat clean that we talk
because-
about, right?
I remember, not that my technique's perfect, because if you ask Greg, he'll cringe. But I remember I was doing it was like the first time I ever got coached on Olympic weightlifting. I think I was 4 years into CrossFit. First time I ever got coached on Olympic weightlifting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was great. I had a really good start. It was awesome.
Solid base, solid foundation.
Solid. But I was so meticulous about recording myself, critiquing myself. I watched the hook grip videos on Instagram,
Those are
which if
awesome.
you've never seen those, they basically break them down in super, super, super slow-mo of the top Olympic weightlifters in the world.
You're like, why don't I look like that?
No, I would just see them do certain things, and I'm like, oh, that's how it's supposed to look. So I would watch myself and try to mimic that as much as I could. But I remember I was taking a class with a guy, and he was asking me my numbers, asking how much I weighed, because he was like comparing it to like if I were to do a meet. And we were lifting, and he's like, all right, do a clean, and I hit a clean, and doing certain stuff. And he was like, man, you just need to get stronger. And I was just like, ugh. Because my technique, again, not perfect, but my technique was good enough that I was able to maximize how much I could lift based on my strength. So if your technique is really bad, like landing super wide in a power clean, or maybe you can't reach full depth in a squat snatch or something like that, or maybe something's just slightly off technical wise, I tell people all the time, like, if we can increase your technique, you can literally add 5 to 10 pounds to any of your lifts just because of technical things. So like Adrian was saying, is like, you're limiting yourself for the future because of your technique. Where if you were to clean up your technique now we can focus on strength and apply that strength correctly.
Yeah, I think that's smart. I think that's where us as a gym and coaches and athletes is to lead by example sometimes, where I check my ego where I'm like, I'm telling everyone not to do starfishes, to either back down, and I
Do as I say, not as I do.
No, but I'm changing that.
I know you said you hated that.
It is what it is.
He said he hated that one too. But or you can just say what Adrian says, it is what it is, what it isn't.
What it isn't.
I
Yep.
don't even know what that means.
Me
It's like
neither.
I agree to disagree.
To agree.
It means whatever you want it to mean.
I agree to disagree to agree.
Yep.
Same. But
Oui.
but logging your weights and your results and those kinds of things kind of just, and then this isn't a podcast to be like shaming anybody that doesn't want to. I mean,
We
unless
do
you,
that behind your back.
yeah. Can you believe that they don't put their workout in? Oh my god.
Fuck you. You're cool.
Yeah, good movie. But it's not to kind of give shame, but it's just a kind of like a gentle reminder of like it's there. The other thing too is the ROM wad that's in there it's just like a little 20-25 minute yoga stretch session you can do. You just click it, watch the video, and follow along. Gives you breathing stuff.
It's amazing. It helps a lot.
I pay for that as a gym just to supply it to you guys, so you have something extra to focus on outside of the gym, because I know how much people hate stretching and stuff, myself included.
It is boring, but
it helps.
Adrian doesn't believe in it.
I was listening to a podcast last night. They were talking about this. This guy, he was on a training think tank, and he was, I think he's the PT that works there at their gym and works on their athletes and stuff. They were talking about, like, you know, you need to stretch your lats if you have poor overhead position, all this different stuff. And he was like, "What about you?" He's like, "I know you move well. What do you do?" And he's like, "Nothing." And he's like, "What do you mean?" He goes, if you give me a bar right now, I'll do a squat snatch cold. And he's like, the reason why is because I don't have any limitations. And it's because the guy worked on them for years, and also he's genetically blessed where he doesn't have those limitations. So he can come in and just warm up.
I'm genetically blessed.
Yeah. But no, I mean, Adrian's got his limitations. His overhead positioning in a squat snatch isn't really great.
No, I know. And we talked about that. Like, he does a lot more than stretching versus like his sleep. I mean, I would take getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep over stretching every day.
Yeah.
If you were to give me an option, what would I rather a client do? I would take sleep.
Yeah, for sure. If it's definitely going to hinder in on their sleep. But what I'm getting at is, if you have all of these things, then you can just start warming up and you're fine. You don't have to do the extra banded lat stretches, the PVC pass-throughs, the little putting out the vibe stretch that you do every day that, you know.
My peacocking?
Yes. And you're like, all right, everybody, grab a kettlebell. We're all going to do this peacocking. No, I think there's a time and place for a lot of that stuff. I mean, I have people do stuff like stretching their hip flexors and doing stuff that I think that most people need to do every day, but that could be wrong. Some people don't.
And I think I'm biased when I do stuff like that, because I worked in an office for, 9 years? So, like, I use what I had to do to get warmed up from sitting so long. So I think of that when I think of clients.
Same. No, there's nothing wrong with that. Thinking about, like, whenever, like, what's the vast majority of the people need, this is what we're going to do. You're going to have your outliers. There's 2s and 3s people that don't need it.
And we go back and forth. We like sometimes doing dynamic warm-ups where you're just running back and forth, hip circles and stuff like that, versus when I first started, it was just like, everyone stretch.
Right.
Get on the wall, let's do the couch stretch for 30 seconds.
I mean, that's a different day for a different conversation, but my thought on that is just, everybody, if, let's say they've been sitting behind a desk all day, they want to move. I'm ready to move. I'm here, I have 1 hour. If I'm spending the first 10, 15, 20 minutes stretching,
doing like yoga,
it's going to feel good, but that's not what I signed up for. Not to say, all right, jump in head first, go run a mile, like cold, like, and it's 20 degrees outside. It's, let's get warmed up, let's get the blood flowing, get stuff moving. But it's like, that's why whenever, like, I brief class, I try not to talk very much. I get quick, concise, to the point, because no one wants to get lectured for 15 minutes after they've been sitting there getting lectured all day at work. You know, it's like, I'm ready to move. Like, get me moving, get me sweating. So that's what I try to think of. And I'm like, okay, we've been standing here for too long, or we've been holding these stretches for too long, or we've been doing this for too long. It's like, no, I'm like, what are we doing? What's the lift? Okay, let's do the primer. Let's get stuff going. All right, guys, go out and take your time, or whatever.
Yeah, because you can get super warmed up with just a barbell or just a PVC pipe moving. So,
but I mean, like I said, that's a different conversation. But so, kind of all takeaway is log your results. That way you can keep track of them over the course of time, because then you can see your progress slowly. And then for me, I like when I first started working out, it was bodybuilding / CrossFit. I would do 400 meter run, 25 barbell curls, 25 tricep extensions, and then bench press. Like, that's how I would, like, some of my oldest workouts are written that way, and I still have them. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Whereas if I wouldn't have written down any of that, I wouldn't have remembered any of that. So it's like,
it's beneficial, and it's cool to, like, go back and look at what you were for. I'm bummed I had all my notes on Gmail, and when I got an iPhone, for some reason, all the Gmail notes disappeared.
Really? They're probably still somewhere in a cloud where Adrian is today.
He's thinking about his cold water, his no water.
No, I will. I think it's actually a good thing to log your thing. So I decided I'm going to start logging my thing.
Yeah, and then you set it to private, which is fine, right?
He let me get that first place.
Only did that once.
Oh, really?
Now, because of such a high demand, Due to popular demand, I will start putting in my scores.
Yeah. Well, it's good because it gives some people. It also to me it shows kind of what's capable. For some people, like some people will look at results and they're like, "Oh, damn! I didn't realize you could do that fast." It's like, yeah,
I'll also write a little diary.
good.
Tier diary.
Let me know what you thought about for that day. This morning I got up and I had 3 eggs instead of 4.
I
So
got
my
my
left
sweet.
big toe started hurting because of gout because I didn't have enough eggs. But no,
And we're not discouraging any of you to do that stuff. Put
Yeah.
whatever you want in there.
Yeah.
It's beneficial, whether it's therapeutic for yourself or just vent. I don't care.
yeah,
I like all the notes.
cool. All
All,
right.
all feedback is good.
Yeah, well, I gotta go coach a class. So,
There, yes, sir.
good
Adios.
chatting with you guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, later.
Peace.